I've just been using Opus every time that I get into a bug in Claude Code. And that does cost a lot of money because very simply I just wanted the job to be done. But here is something that Claude has just released that can actually help us take care of this problem. Just to understand the difference both of these, very simply Opus is super expensive but best at what it does, but also costs 15 times more. And on the other hand, Sonnet and Haiku are pretty good at doing stuff but also can't do a lot of complex reasoning. Like compared to Opus, they're nowhere in the league. But what if you could actually bring Opus only when it is needed? You don't need Opus to write the code, you just need Opus to plan the code. Let me explain this by an example. Let's say you have a team of engineers that you have in your office. Now you need them to kind of work on a project which is outside their domain. What do you do most of the times? You get in an expert from some other place and help, and that person is then responsible for guiding your team to doing what is needed for that project. And that's the idea. That's how the advisor model works. That's what advisory is called. People with specific expertise come in and help solve problems. That's exactly what Claude is trying to do here with the advisor's model. What it will do is very simply that if any time that there is something that's a hard decision within the task that you're trying to do. So let's say you asked it to build a complete software system to track tasks, manage projects and everything else. Writing code is not challenging. Understanding how all of these pieces come together is the problem. So technically, every time that it faces a hard decision, it can go to Opus, get the whole information and technically send it back. And now because you're using Opus only when it is necessary, you get two things. First, you get something which is very simply very effective and cheaper, but also at the same time you get faster generation because Sonnet and Haiku are faster generating output than anything else. So you get it cheap and fast at the same time. Now the way this model works, and let me show you by a quick, I built a simple app which very simply takes a problem and then sends it to the advisor tool in the format as it is needed. So here we have a simple problem that there is a competitor that has launched a product at 1/3 the cost and has 70% of the same features that we offer. Now we ran an analysis, and the first thing that happens here is that Haiku runs the initial analysis. It frames the problem, it says, okay, here is the problem, here is what is needed, and go ahead and do that. And then finally, you can see it says, let me get the advisor's perspective on this. Advisor here is no other than Opus. And as you can see, Opus has all the information and sends out a proper guidance on what are the things that you need to do to solve this problem, or what is the analysis that you can apply on. And then you can see it gives 3 recommendations, right? And very simply, after that, it hands it over back to Haiku to write the final message that the user will see. And then Haiku takes all of that and sends out the final exact message that the user would see if this was an app that I was releasing. In the same logic, you can apply this to a lot of situations. For example, let's say you were building an app where users have FAQ questions regarding their loan applications. Most of the questions will be regarding service, regarding when to pay, what to pay, basic questions that you can answer using Haiku. But when someone asks that, I want to readjust my loan and maybe spend more money or decrease my interest rate or some complex question, that time maybe it makes sense to send it to Opus. And that's where you can use it in real-time applications and use it with all the new models that Claude will keep releasing. So if we ever get a chance at Mythos, I'm 110% telling you it's going to be super expensive and I'm going to stick to this process. Now, just to tell you how this is set up, it's very simply like these 3 lines that need to be added in the whole API call. And again, the links for this will be available in the description. But after that, it technically runs automatically. After you add this code, that is all you need to do. Once the code is added, there is nothing else that changes because very simply, it automatically runs everything on the API side. So you don't have to worry about handling when Opus is being used or not. You just tell you are ready to use it, the model it should use for advising, and go ahead. And then the best part that happens here is the billing. So it uses Sonnet and Haiku, the default models for most of the tasks, but only when it needs advices, it goes to Opus, and that means your costs come out to be decently cheaper than normal. Now, when should you actually use the advisor tool? Very simply, for that, you should only use it on things that actually require decision making and are hard. When I say that they are hard, that means again, for example, you're creating a multi-step research. You're creating a research document for your company or your competitors. At that time, there would be times that AI might need to select, okay, what setup should I use to research this? Should I go to this website compared to this? How do I weight these different parameters? An example. Now, that is a time that you should have Opus to advise the tool and the agent at the right place. But if you're using you can say basic question and answers, or like, again, very simply, you technically are just like, again, creating a FAQ bot. That's not a place to use advisor unless you expect that the FAQ might turn very complex and you want to give advisor as a backup option there. But at the same time, remember that if you're trying to build something super complex, like let's say you're trying to build a chess app, right, with like 3D renders and like completely new kind of gameplay, at that time I think it's better just to use Opus the whole time, because the application is already going to ask Opus so many times, it's going to keep calling it for advice. Just use it across rather than like trying to figure out how to save money there. So that would be my suggestion on how to use the advisor tool. And don't only keep this strategy to yourself. This strategy can expand to any new model that Claude releases, and keep that in mind when you are going to go ahead and use them. Now, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It costs you nothing, helps out a lot. I would love to see you in the next videos. And if you want to watch something more about Claude, go ahead and click here, and I'll see you in the next one.